Okay, time for some FTL. So unlike my other vids so far, this one isn't so much of a step-by-step guide for something as it is a proof of concept. And the reason for this is that there are just so many ship configurations that will do exactly what I'm doing here, that is, farming for an infinite score. I'll go through all the details of what's happening by the end, but to start, as you can probably tell, I've gone a heavy melee ship, and I'm up against what I consider to be the nastiest layout for a Rebel Elite fighter, one with multiple missiles. Okay, starting off with Weapon Pre-Igniter, firing Flak 2 to pop your shields, ready to follow that up with a Glaive Beam. He'll always teleport a couple of guys over to my ship, a little bit of pausing and unpausing to see exactly which room he's chosen, and now I've got the choice. Do I send my guys, like so, up to deal with them, or do I teleport my team over to his ship and start laying into his weapons? Normally, it's straight to deal with the guys on my ship, don't want them to cause damage, but when up against a missile ship, as we don't want to expend resources launching a defense drone, or waste the cloak, which I'll need shortly anyway, it depends on my Glaive Beam. If it knocks out his missiles, then great, business as normal. If it doesn't, I'll have to teleport over and leave my other crew members to defend. Never the pilot though. Always try to leave your pilot in the cockpit charging your jump drive, just in case things start to go pear-shaped. Again, you don't need a melee ship for this. A large part of the fun in FTL is coming up with and obtaining your own ship configurations with different synergies. The exact layout you go for is entirely up to you. It just so happens that in any space combat game, I've personally always enjoyed going ground combat. If any of you recall, way back in Star Control 2 Super Melee mode, there was the Oars with their intruders. In Master of Orion 2, I liked boarding with assault shuttles. And yeah, now most recently with FTL, I find I most enjoy the 4-man teleporter. Okay, Glaive Beam failed to take out all the missiles, teleporting over it is. Follow that up with a Crystal Lockdown to keep the bulk of enemies out while I deal with his weapons, at least enough to disable his missiles, and we're good on that front. Our shield room's taking a little hit, but they need to damage it twice before our ship actually takes any permanent damage, so no problem there either. Still a little time up our sleeve. So, why was I so keen to disable his missiles if I have a defense drone ready to go, you may ask? This comes back to the question of what we're actually doing here. In FTL, or Advanced FTL, your ship's final score is based on 4 things. There's a scrap you collect along the way, the non-rebel controlled beacons you manage to visit, your difficulty multiplier, and lastly, the thing we're exploiting here, the number of ships you've defeated along the way. Rebel Elite fighters like this one not only count towards that final ship count for your score, they also reward you with 1 fuel guaranteed. So if you can come up with a ship design which can not only beat them, but do so without expending any resources whatsoever, and without taking any damage, then there's nothing stopping you from bouncing around a rebel-controlled sector indefinitely, farming their fleet for as long as you like to get whatever score it is that you're after. Okay, but if I only have to kill all the enemy crew to win, why lock down the weapon room when I arrive? Couldn't I just teleport over and kill everyone without doing that? I could have the guys on my ship kill off the boarders and the fight would be done. Well, I certainly could do that, and it would totally work, and be faster, but I'd suggest that for whatever ship layout you go with, it's a very good idea to find a routine that works for all enemy ships when farming. I'm pausing quite a lot for this fight, but generally the combat is actually over quite quickly, and if you're working through, let's say, a couple of hundred of these in a row for a really solid score, it's extremely easy to zone out, and if you're changing things up every fight, things just have more of a chance of going wrong. I like to have as few things as possible to change when farming, so it's all pretty automatic. If I teleport over and haven't successfully disabled their first aid room like I have here, or maybe they've got a cloning bay, it can take quite a long time to work through all their crew. Plenty of time for missile weapons to get off multiple shots. We can deal with one, as the timing of an enemy missile and the ASB are close enough together that we can dodge them both with a single cloak, but we really don't want them firing a second round. So yeah, for this particular layout at least, I prefer to always smash their weapon room as a priority and deal with the crew second. Okay, well to be close, looks like this guy is going to get his first missile off before I manage to knock it offline. It happens sometimes. I'll pop a second lockdown just to make sure we definitely get it before dealing with the rest of the crew though, because it's always better to be safe than sorry. As you can see, the ASB is nearly due, so we're going to wait until the missile is away, then activate our cloak to dodge both with one use. There goes the missile now even, a split second before I knocked his weapon out. Ah well. We'd be activating our cloak about now anyway, as the ASB is different to all other weapons and it will continue to charge and fire while you're cloaked, so it's actually beneficial to activate early on the first use, allowing you to dodge the ASB towards the end of its effect, which in turn gives you maximum recharge time. With good timing, you can even use the cloak to dodge a second ASB, though we won't be needing to do that this fight. Lockdown's over now, so let the rest of the enemy into the room to fight. My squad should finish off the enemy crew and make it back about the same time my 2 guys in the shield room have polished off their combat and finish up preparing my shield. Then we'll just spend as much time as we can before the second ASB fires getting ready for next jump's fight. This includes things like healing our guys up in the first aid room, passing some cooldown time for the teleporter and cloak, and if you're like me, potentially shuffling your crew around to different jobs. You may have seen early on in the fight that one of my guys maxed out his weapon skill, so I'll be taking him off weapons and sticking someone else there to let them build up some XP now. Slowly making a team of super soldiers, because, well, why not max out everyone at everything if we can? We've got the time. Okay, that's the enemy crew dead, so there's our fuel reward, paying for our next jump. Time to recall the squad and get things ready for next time. Just while everyone's healing up, I wanted to talk a little more about the ASB, as it's really what takes these fights from a piece of cake to potentially quite deadly. So, as you're probably aware, there'll be a warning sound a few moments before one fires. What may be less obvious is when it does fire, it will decide then and there if it's going to miss your ship or not. This means two things. One, if you want to cloak or do things like adjust the power to your engine to try and dodge an ASB, do so before the firing animation. And two, if you're not planning on cloaking but instead jumping away, it's quite advantageous to do a bit of pausing. If it fires and says miss underneath, then you can sit back and chill. You're dodging it anyway, giving you plenty of time up your sleeve while they charge up for the next one. If on the other hand they fire and there's no miss writing, you can still wait until just before it hits your ship to jump away. This gives you that extra little bit of time to prepare for the next fight, and sometimes, if things have been a bit hectic, that extra second or two can really make all the difference. So, we just had the warning siren for the second ASB. I don't plan on cloaking again in this fight, so we'll be doing the pausing trick. Nope, it's not that shot. It's just background as it's angled to miss us. Maybe the next one? Pause, unpause, there. Okay, so the big miss sign above the shot is kind of giving away that it's the ASB this time, but even if it didn't have that, you could still spot that it's not just background animation by the angle it's being fired at. It can take a bit of practice, but if you can't spot the difference, don't panic. Just keep pausing and unpausing for each shot fired. If a shot's going to miss you, then no problem. If on the other hand, one is growing bigger and bigger until it looks like it's just about to connect with one of the rooms on your ship, it's a safe bet it's the ASB, and you should probably jump right then and there. Well, I think I've about covered everything I was planning to for this vid now. Hopefully there's been at least a couple of useful tips or tricks to help out with your own FTL games though. If you've got any questions, do feel free to leave them below, and I promise to get to them eventually. Also for this vid, if you've got any ship designs for farming the Rebel fleet that you're particularly pleased with, or that you'd just generally like to share with others out there in internet land, feel free to elaborate on some of their details as well. I'm sure I wouldn't be the only one to be curious to see what other people's favourite setups for Rebel fleet farming end up looking like. Otherwise, yeah, good luck with your own games, and I hope your scores break all the records. See ya!